Yeah, I agree. We're all humans. We all fall for temptations, but what it comes down to is we all need that bit of control so we all don't lose our sanity, right?
Yeah.
Alright, I'll just finish up with one last topic. I like to touch down on the yellow vest. So the 25th straight weekend of the yellow vest protests had just occurred. It was recorded as their lowest turnout yet on Saturday.
Yeah, it's gonna die out, man, unfortunately.
This was only days after the May Day rally. The May Day rally had violent clashes in Paris, but Macron delivered a speech last week. He proposed solutions to the economic problems raised by Yellow Vest protesters, and the Yellow Vest activists were unimpressed and said it was not at all satisfactory. With high expectations, it was bound to be disappointing, said a prominent Yellow Vest activist. In that speech, Macron acknowledged Islamic extremism as a threat to the French public.
Racist, fucking
Yeah.
Islamophobe.
He also pledged to cut income taxes for middle class workers, but the time is long overdue, and globalist Macron has ignored the French public for far too long. So the protests saw 18,900 marching across the nation, and in addition, some yellow vests joined a rally against climate change in the northern city of Metz, where G7 environment ministers were meeting. The demonstration gathered 3,000 participants. And in contrast, tens of thousands of Labour Union and Yellow Vest protesters had taken to the streets in demonstrations that saw clashes between Bloc anarchists and police. So basically, on May Day, the protests involved people on all fronts. We saw environmental activists, communist activists, and even Kurdish activists. The Black Bloc were throwing bottles at police, and the police responded with tear gas. But the government deployed 7,400 officers and detained more than 250 people in Paris. And supposedly, May Day had nothing to do with the Yellow Vest protest. They called it a workers' celebration. So Rodriguez, the man that lost sight in one eye in January, he's become a prominent activist for the Yellow Vest and highly supportive of the May Day.
Vous savez, les plus belles révoltes, elles sont au mois de mai. Le français est frileux, il va commencer à faire beau, il y aura de plus en plus de monde dehors. Il faut juste montrer qu'aujourd'hui, on n'est pas des sauvages, qu'à défaut d'être des gilets jaunes, vous avez un citoyen en dessous. Le gilet jaune, c'est pas une doctrine politique, c'est pas une doctrine idéologique, c'est pas une doctrine terroriste. Ce sont des citoyens qui revendiquent, qui portent un gilet jaune pour se montrer qu'on est en détresse et qu'on fait un appel à l'aide. Voilà.
So they're actually expanding their protests a bit more. They're involving a lot more people, and the May Day one, I think, had a lot more to do with the Black Bloc, and it had a lot of violence with police as well. So, how do you think that that's turning out?
I honestly think that it's slowly going to die out, man. I think Macron's got his chess pieces positioned in the right spots now. And I think that, like I've always said, it should have been much quicker than it has taken out now. I still support the Yellow Vest movement, but with any dynamic of power and a huge group of people opposing a government, there is no guarantee that every single person who opposes the government A, for the same reasons, or B, they have the same for the same reasons as everyone else, or B, that they have all some kind of unified ideological understanding in which what they would implement if they were to overthrow the Macron government. Because if they did throw the Macron government, then it would go to a civil war because there'd be different factions of the Yellow Vest and the people of France fighting amongst one another in order to, determine who's going to lead the next regime. So I think that the way like the Black Bloc protesters are and shit like that, it's that's just what you expect. The Black Blocs should be fucking shot, but what can you do, man? All you can do is just kind of hope for the best, but we can't expect there to be a successful kind of revolution in France.
Well, I think the Black Bloc were actually cooperating with the Yellow Vest.
Oh, well,
they're probably just a little bit more violent fucking force we probably need.
Oh, they're not. The Black Bloc, man, they're just, you know who they are, bro.
Anarchists, yeah.
If they got what they want, they wouldn't help.
They don't have a solution. Yeah,
they don't have a solution, but they wouldn't do anything, bro. They're just a bunch of fucking broke fucking nobodies with no understanding of political or structural system. They just like have an understanding of the issues in the world, but they have no idea how to fix them or understanding of how intrinsically deep those issues are. So, you know, you've got a bunch of like 20 to 30-year-old anarchists. You give them a position of power in government, and they're just going to be like everyone else. They're going to just form corruption, and it's just the same fucking repeated process, man.
And while this happens, what do our Australian activists do? So, you know, kids as young as 10, they trashed the politician's office and they were yelling, kill ScoMo, while they skipped, you know, school for climate change. Yeah. So that's what our activists are doing.
Yeah, 100%, man. Yeah, well, that just shows ideological possession. Like, bro, ideological extremism is not exclusive to the left, nor is it exclusive to the right or one single form of thinking. Ideological extremism is the inability to obtain a rational thought in regards to what you believe or stand for. Ideological extremism is that extreme bias that one has to their doctrines or their subscription of thought, and the inability to see any other form of perspective, and then they have this kind of absolutist way, and absolutism is another symptom of ideological possession.
Well, yeah, that's been a good video, and we're going to finish it up here.
Thank you. It was good to be here, bro.
Yeah, thanks for coming on again, bro. We'll definitely have you again for more appearances. I'd like to thank everybody for listening and tuning in. You know, the country's it's going downhill. You know, whether it's economically or, you know, culturally or whatever. You know, we're losing our ways, and these authoritarian yuppies seem to be calling the shots. So, remember, guys, we got to move over to alternative platforms. Facebook is just constantly censoring and undermining everybody. The algorithms is just ridiculous, and you're not being able to hear the actual truth of things. So if we move over to platforms like Minds, which is what I actually recommend at the moment after looking a bit into MeWe and who owns MeWe, gave me a little bit suspicious. So I recommend to move over to platforms like Minds and Gab. Apparently there's a couple of streaming platforms you can move over to, like BitChute, and there's another one. So just remember, guys, if we want to take back our country from these globalists and stop globalism and revive the Australian spirit, we have to compromise and be willing to move over to these platforms, because Facebook, it's just going downhill more and more. Same as YouTube, they're censoring more and more people. Twitter as well isn't much any better. So we're going to try and move over to these other platforms, give them a check out and see what we can do. So this is Nathan Mottee, and thank you everybody for listening. Thanks, Bayden.
My pleasure, bro. It was great to be here.
And we'll probably have Clint on the show again and some other guests. So thank you everyone, and see you soon.